My name is Tanya Romanyuha. I'm head of operations in TechIsland, and we are welcoming you on our first workshop in Startup School, which is powered by our member and our partner, Zubr Capital, private equity venture capital firm, our beloved partners who are doing it with us for the second year in a row. It's an important project for us because I would say 30% of our members are startups, and this number is heavily growing. And we know that there is, let's say, a gap in funding in Cyprus. There's not easy job to find investors in Cyprus. It's not an easy deal even to start a company from Cyprus, but Zubr Capital knows very well with their amazing portfolio, you know, how to guide and navigate through this innovational ecosystem. So I'm sure that you will enjoy the insights which you will get today, and please sign up for the next workshop, which will be in June. So it will be the continuation of this study, let's say. And overall, if you are not still members, please apply to become members of TechIsland, and also follow our pages, because we have a lot of different kind of events, communities, workshops, and you may find it useful. I want to welcome our speakers. I believe they will introduce themselves. And wish you good luck and insightful learning experience today.
Thank you very much, thank you. Yeah, maybe I'll just go and introduce my colleague Anna. She will start our first presentation on the investment process.
Thank you, and hello everyone. Give me a second to come here and start the presentation. So today we are going to talk to you a bit about investments, investment processes, how to raise investments, what types of investors they are, some discounts, some things that you should for sure know if you would like to raise capital. So let's start with a short introduction about myself. As Konstantin had mentioned, my name is Anna. I work in Zubr Capital and responsible for the whole investment process from initiation to deal closing, then doing some work with our portfolio companies in terms of their development strategy, etc. We have a few portfolio companies with which I work. Among them are such companies as AMA. This is the femtech pregnancy app company. SmartCat, a platform for translation management. They're doing this really well with the help of AI. Palta, I think this is quite a well-known company in Cyprus as well. They're a big health and well-being tech company. Ohis, MediaCube, so I think we're going to talk about them a bit in the examples. So a few words about Zubr Capital. We are a private equity fund. We have 3 funds and around $150 million under our management. Generally, we invest in IT companies all over the world, but with the focus on European companies. We have more than 20 portfolio companies. We have both institutional and high net worth individuals as our investors. And among institutional investors, we have EBRD and FMO, which are development companies. In our portfolio, we have companies from different sectors, and you can see them here, they're listed. But we also have 2 unicorns, and we had 1 IPO. We have a remote team living in different locations, but we have 2 offices in Limassol, here, and in Warsaw. So this is shortly about us. If you have any questions, we would be happy to talk a bit more about us later, and generally about questions. Yeah, so now let's start with the things that I'd like to tell you today. So my speech would be about how we do companies find investments and everything about that. So I'd like to start with a question to you. Why does a startup need investments? Can you tell the answers?
Grow faster.
Mm-hmm. Grow faster, yeah.
Ensure cash flow.
Cash flow, right. Some other?
Networking.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons as well.
Bring the idea to market.
Expertise, yeah, bring idea to the market. Great. So there are many reasons for generally attracting investments, and to make them a bit structured, I have here two columns, rational and emotional. And let's talk a bit about every column. So in rational, we have a few reasons. They're quite understandable. The first one is accelerated growth. So we have here an example of Airbnb. Airbnb wanted to have investments due to the reason that they wanted to enter new markets, to invest in marketing, to scale globally, and generally to invest in technology as well. And due to having funding, they succeeded in that. So that's quite understandable. Next reason is strategic partnerships. And here we have the example of Lyft. They had investments from General Motors. General Motors was not only the investor but also a partner for them because they wanted to develop autonomous vehicles, and together they, having both the sharing platform and the brain of General Motors and their expertise in automotive industry, they will advance the future of transportation together. The next reason here is validation of business, and we have validation of business in rational and also validation in emotional, but that's quite different. So in SpaceX, for example, they had investors such as Google and Fidelity, and they validated the company's ambition and vision, so that actually helped them to increase their credibility and to be acceptable from the commercial side as well. And jumping to emotional, in the example with Facebook, for example, Facebook had investments from Peter Thiel and Axel Partners, which are quite well-known names in the industry. And for them, it was the validation both for the company, and I think you understand that when you get investments, you get validation for yourself as a founder as well, because that's like, hey, you're moving to the right direction, continue your growth. So that actually helps from the emotional side as well. In terms of some other reasons, Zubr Capital that was mentioned, expertise and network, access to resources, and we're going to talk about that a bit later. So in terms of emotional reasons, fulfillment of dreams, and I think every person that ever had a startup or a business or just thought about that actually knows that having a business is sometimes a dream, and the mission that you have in your business, as in SpaceX, for example, turning science fiction into reality, can sometimes be your dream in your whole life. And when you're doing that, it actually helps and brings you further towards that. Belief in team and vision. In this case of Airbnb, it actually helped to also increase the number of people in their team and then to further expand the company. And opportunity for impact. Also, one example of Elon Musk, and here is Tesla, and having investments actually accelerated generally the idea of transition to sustainable energy. So lots of reasons, but it's really good to understand why you need investments, and this is the question that you need to ask yourself if you'd like to attract investments. Because, I think that having investments and attracting investments sometimes nowadays is a trend, because I think that when you look around, almost every successful company has some rounds, etc. But you should really be thoughtful about that. So another thing that you should ask yourself is, what type of company are you building? Because this is also crucial, as it also answers to the questions if you need investments. It could be a global company with the traditional path with attracting investments, growing, reaching some milestones, and then exiting, for example. It could be a lifestyle business where you just want to enjoy the process. Being a big successful company is not really the priority because your enjoyment is on the first place here. And these are the businesses that are also really great. So being a global company or a lifestyle business doesn't really mean that you're worth or better. And the third type here is a family business. Sometimes when people start a business for themselves, they realize that they are unwilling to sell, they just want to pass it on to your children, and this is a case where some investments would also not align with the strategy. But still, if you want to still raise and you understand that that's what you're going to do, the thing that I'd like to tell you is about investments. So at its stage of development, the company has different sources of funding, and this is what we're going to talk to you today about. We have here different stages. 3F, seed funds and business angels, venture capital, private equity funds, and this is where Zubr is actually, hedge funds and private equity funds. And this actually aligns with the development of the company as well. And we'll dive deeper into each stage. And we'll start with the first one, 3F. So those 3Fs are friends, family, and fools. And this is the type of funding that you need to fund very early startups. Why? Because these are the people where relationships really matter. Friends. Why friends? Because these are the people that have known you for quite a time. They know about you, they know your character, whether to trust you or not, and they're investing in you and in your relationship. Family. Those are the people that also know you usually for all your life, and they would bet on you no matter what. So also quite logical as a first funding. And fools, just people who don't really realize all the risks and trust you. And talking about discounts, no discounts here, they just believe you. Usually no presentations or pitches or decks, no financial model, just believing you and going with you to the future. Another stage here is angel investments. Angel investments are people, they usually have some experience in some specific areas. Maybe they were founders, maybe in VC, maybe they were executives. They usually have some expertise and connections in specific industries, or they can bring value to you, for example, in tech. I know some funds that, some angels that invest specifically in those companies where they understand that they can bring some team value in terms of employees in tech, and this is what they do, clients, etc. So usually there are some specific industry experts, and this is the first stage of investments where you really have more serious due diligence than in 3F. And you need some formalization of your results as a company to give them some update about your development. They're less pushy towards an exit. They're really fast in terms of deal process and in terms of investing, especially compared to some stages, venture, private equity, etc. And Konstantin is going to talk to you more about the investment process, and you would understand why. And this is actually a very popular type of funding, especially nowadays, because it's fast, it's easy, and it actually, angel investors usually turn a blind eye to many things. When you're a startup, you can have a messy structure, you can have, no legal structure, for example, but they are usually eager to help you to create the processes, and when they choose who to invest in, they usually look at track records, because sometimes it's the only thing that the company has at this stage. Next stage is venture capital. This is the most popular type of funding. Here there are already larger amounts of capital invested compared to angels. What they give you when they invest in you, this is the idea validation. So the thing that we talked to you about, like stamp of approval, you're going through that direction, we invested in you. They usually provide some help in terms of their expertise, guidance, and networking, because generally most of the investors have really good networking, and they can provide you with some help in different spheres in terms of, for example, next new rounds, or in terms of some new employees, or would generally help you where to go, how to acquire customers, how to hire personnel. But not all of the investors are willing to help, and this is also one of the things that you need to consider while attracting investments. When they invest, they usually look at your track records as the founder, at the market, and at your first metrics, because venture capital is still usually an early stage where you have not a lot of information. Discounts, and sorry, I forgot to tell a bit about what discounts are. So discounts are when you either raise or lower your valuation and specific things that attract that. So here, the main discounts are no legal structure, and this is, well, a risk for investors. Metrics, and here I mean like both good metrics and negative metrics, and they both can higher your valuation or lower it. Team location, for example, etc. So so this is about venture capital. If we look at private equity, this is another next step, and this is even larger amounts of capital invested compared to VC. Also understandable because we're going up. They usually give more expertise, guidance, and networking. There are both hands-on and hands-off funds. Hands-on ones are diving deep in what you're doing, going to the board of directors, helping you with the processes, or there are hands-off funds that just invest in you and then track your progress. Usually, private equity funds are more strategic, and they give you strategic support. So in terms of especially enhanced corporate governance, they're usually the ones that help you create the board of directors and formalize that process. They usually are really strict in terms of tracking your financials and looking after the things that you have, both cash flow and P&L and balance sheet. They are usually really paying more attention towards your strategy, towards your sales and marketing, product development, and this is usually the stage of the company where you would have all of that, or would really need to pay attention toward that if you still don't have. Private equity also gives you opportunity for liquidity, because they can help you with funding of the next rounds, or if this is the last round, they can help you, for example, with IPOs or with further strategic acquisitions, because for some companies, private equity is the last round of funding that they get. We at the private equity fund usually look at numbers. We love numbers, we love metrics, and then we look at the market, at the team. But here numbers first, because this is the stage of the development where you have lots of data and you actually need that data to make an investment decision. In terms of the discounts, so financial statements, it's really important to have good reporting, corporate governance, minority shareholders, or also when we see a structure where a company has 20 minority shareholders, this is something that really matters a lot, because we understand that we need to think about an exit, and this is a bit of a pain for us, for example, or small share founders, because this is also a thing that means that, the founder's not as motivated to continue developing the company, or, for example, lots of other investors here. So this is the thing that private equity funds usually pay attention to. The next step here is private equity pre-IPO, or, for example, hedge funds. Usually they are the funds that pay attention to the numbers, the exact results that the company has, because this is really important for their performance as well, and for the IPO as well, and to speculation opportunities, because this is what IPO is connected with. And here they usually take a deep look towards how everything in the company is organized, because when you are planning to become a public company, you really need everything to work like a clock in your company, starting from your org chart, how your personnel is divided by, departments and how everything is organized in terms of corporate governance, in terms of the board of directors, to security issues, to lots of legal questions. So here, this type of funds and this type of investors really pay a huge amount of attention to that. And for them, financial statements and corporate governance and some other things really matter a lot. So this is in short about this chart with all the stages. Just a little bit of statistics. I told you about all the stages, but it's not necessary to raise a crowd of investments. You just have to look at what you really need to model it, and to do it only if you need that. But if we look at these two graphs, so we have here two statistical pictures from CB Insights and from Carta, and they had two surveys of companies. The first one dates to 2008. This is the cohort from that time. And they show here how many companies raised the second round, the third round, and so on, and how many of them IPO'd. And the same thing here is with Carta's data, but just different cohorts. So that's really interesting to look at them separately as well. And we see that less than 1% of startups reach Series E, which is quite a late stage, so here. And only 12% of them got acquired. So you always have to think that during each stage of investments it's quite hard for companies, and not all of them actually succeed. So this is the statistics that we see. I think that listening to what I'm saying to you, you have quite a logical question. Okay, so we know what stages are there, so we know what our investors looking at, but where do I find investments? And this is a great question, and I have an answer for you. First of all, look around you. You may have some friends or some relatives or just some people that your neighbor that you know that is an investor or had investments, and this is always good to look around you and see, because I think that in our world this is quite a thing that everybody's talking about investments, and there should be a person. The second thing is networking events and conferences, also quite a number of events. Lots of conferences, both general ones and industry-specific, where you have different panels. You always have some talks with experts, or maybe not experts, just, this event is also a great thing to talk to people, or events like this. So it's always great to come and, just get acquainted with people. Some pitching events, quite a logical place where to find investments. You apply, usually also different events in different spheres. Many of them take place both, I'd say online mostly nowadays, but still a great place to find investments, or just to network and to find some others through the ones that you pitch to. Then quite obvious challenge like Google and LinkedIn, because in Google you can always look for some funds, know some information about them, understand which ones are investing at your stage. And LinkedIn is great in terms of connections, where you can write to a person. For example, there are many posts with some databases of investors, the one with contact details as well, with some descriptions. So this is a great place to look for something more specific. And it's easier always to go through LinkedIn, for example, than just from Google or from the company's website. So it's easier to reach through a personal letter or an email or just a message than towards with an email info, Zubr Capital.com. And some other things here that I like to mention is crowdfunding. This is also quite, I think that people use especially at early stages. Accelerators and grants also, there are many well-known, like Y Combinator, for example, a great thing to boost a company's growth and just to be already quite a well-known startup if you're going to quite a well-known accelerator or grants. There are many of them, especially in European Union, in different industries and in different sectors. You just have to Google, and I think that you'd find something that's appropriate for your company. Investment banks are also a great source of investors, but that's usually for a later series when you have a specific, already asked for an investor and you have the money, because investment banks are quite pricey as well. And online platforms and marketplaces, in the 21st century we have quite a lot of new startups and companies that are trying to create some platforms and marketplaces where you can register both as an investor and as a startup, and then to find each other like on Tinder, matching the investors and the companies. So, but the critical thing here is actually that relationships are key, and investments is a business of relationships. So you really need to talk to people a lot. You need to start even before you think you'll need the money, because building your network and putting yourself on the map of investors is really crucial here. Because, this is the thing that would really help you in terms of awareness about your company and your awareness as well. So it's always great to know main players on your market, in your industry as well, and to know who's investing in such types of companies as you're building, or, for example, what are the main players and where they're looking at, just to know where to go if you need investments. And we have here a good example of our portfolio company, MediaCube. They are fintech for creators. So in 2015, there was the first meeting with the founder, one of my colleagues. Then they did regular meeting updates for 2 years. And only in 4 years from their first meeting, we actually invested in the company. And 2 years later, we invested a second round. So 6 years of communications actually led to 2 rounds of investments, and it's not the final yet. So, and this is really a great example, not the only company with which we had such a long time of communications. And this is also great in terms of knowing both your investor and for the investor to know you. Because when you communicate for quite a time, you really get to know people and to understand whether you're a fit. Because this is really important. And we say that investment is like a marriage. You really choose a partner for you. And you have to understand whether that partner is a good fit, or whether it would be comfortable for you to be with that partner. And for that, I tell you to do your homework. You should always remember that you are the person or the company that is also choosing the investor. Of course, the investors have so many procedures and due diligence, and still Konstantin is going to talk to you about that. But you have to remember that you are choosing as well. And research the investor. Investment size, investment strategy, industry focus, whether this is a fit for you. What expertise can they give you? What help can they provide? Were there successful cases or exits or IPOs? Who makes the decision in the fund? How is the process organized? And how can they help you? Because this is also a question that you have to ask yourself. So do you want an investor that would just give you the money and leave you and you'll just continue with the growth? Or you need somebody that actually would help you, would provide you some expertise, would help you with hiring, with strategy, with finance, with development. And it's completely okay to say, I just want the money, or I want the expertise as well, but you have to understand what type of an investor this is. In terms of the stage and cultural differences, stage is understandable, pre-seed, seed, Series A, you have to understand which stage it is. And cultural differences, it's always hard sometimes, I'd say, to understand people from different cultures, especially in business. They can have different approaches to many things. And for example, US investors, Chinese investors, and Eastern Europeans are really different in terms of their ways of work, in terms of what they pay attention to, how their corporate cultures work. So you have to bear that in mind as well. And a thing that I really want to pay attention to is if a company needs a round, don't wait until the last minute. Because if, I don't know, like you would just sit and wait, nothing would happen. And when your company's money would end, you'll just look around and say, wow, how did that happen? Because if we look at statistics, actually from the moment when you start investing to the moment that you actually close the round, there are on average like 22 months, 24, 27, so that's quite a long process. Because first you prepare the information, you try to find the investor, you have really lots of talks with them, they start their due diligence, and time flies. And sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's a long time, but always remember that it really takes time. So a few words about discounts. I've already told you about a few of them when we were talking about different stages of investment, different series, and that's always good to remember that sometimes you have only a few things that they pay attention to, but here I have a list of a few others. So there are some commercial discounts that can be used. For example, if your business has a dependency on one client or one supplier, that's always a risk for the investor. Because if, for example, you have a client and the percentage of your revenue from that client is about 60%, it's understandable that if that client leaves, you would only have 40% of your revenue. And this is quite, a steep way towards down. And the same thing with the supplier. If the supplier leaves, you would have like no way or no quick way how to go with your business. Market position is the thing that can both increase or decrease your valuation as a company. Because if you're a leader, it's a great thing to want a bigger valuation. And if you're a 10th player in a small market, that's a question whether you would be a successful company and would become a leader. Unique selling point is also a great thing to differentiate you from the competitor, but sometimes if you have a good and a strategy that you can really talk about and help your investor to realize, and you understand that you have no USPs but you know how to grow, this can also work. Revenue from suspicious channels, this is the revenue, I know, like from betting or from adult industries, and for some investors this is also a no-go, because especially for ones that have institutional investors, because for them this is the industries that they don't really like. So remember and bear in mind that point as well. In terms of legal, there are actually a longer list of discounts, and I think that our lawyer, if she was here, she would tell you maybe for an hour about what discounts can be here. But I have here only 5 points. So minority shareholders. I already mentioned them. We as a fund are a bit suspicious about them because that's really difficult to exit from a company that has lots of shareholders, which have like 1 or 2 or 3%, and that's also really hard to manage in terms of legal as well. Unclear or overcomplicated legal structure. So this is the thing that just makes it complicated to invest in the company and really requires a lot of time to change the company, especially when you have one holding and do fruitable holding, so that's really complicated. Politically exposed persons or sanctioned in the structure, so that's also understandable. And this is a thing that would actually lower the list of investors that are ready to invest in you. IP rights is also really important to track on which legal entities you have your IP rights and whether you genuinely have some claims for them. And legal claims, some fines, this is also an important point. In terms of financial discounts, there are sometimes some one-time deals when a company gets a huge amount of revenue and thinks that increases their valuation, but usually investors pay no attention to that because that's not sustainable. No consolidated statements, and especially on later stages, this is what investors need to make their decision. You need to have both P&L, cash flow, and balance sheet. Internal loans to founders, this is also a thing that we sometimes see when the company gives a loan to the founder or some other loans towards other shareholders. And capitalization, some companies capitalize their expenses, and this is a thing that we usually also add on top of that and get lower financial results in the end. What else is important? You have to always calculate. Make a financial model and understand how much investment you need. And the most crucial thing here is not how much investments you need, but where are you going? Because this is the question that your investor would ask you. And you have to understand that. As I already mentioned, there is no need to raise every round. You have to have clear understanding of that and where you're going. And don't forget about bootstrapping. I know that raising investments is quite popular, but if you understand that you can make it on your own, do that. And this is what this year is also about, and last year. In terms of some mistakes, so some things that are also important not to do. Dilution of founders' shares. There are some companies where we see that they raised so much that the founder has 10% in the company and that's all. And he has no motivation to develop the company, and that's not his company at the end. So that's not the best option. Raising too much and too fast is also quite hard for the companies. And it's easy to die of indigestion, easier than from hunger. So remember that. Too much money is not always good. Rapid increase of expenses after the round. This is a thing that many founders like to do. When they get a lot of money, you have no problems, and you're like, okay, I'll have a big corporate party, we'll go to make a holiday together, I'll increase the salary for everybody, I'll invest a huge amount of money in marketing, and then you understand that you're left with a few millions negative in your net profit and you don't know what to do. So pay attention to that. And choosing investors because of their big names is, of course, investors are the things that put you on the map, that give you some validation, but you have to understand that not every investor that's always appearing somewhere on the web, for example, is great. You really have to choose the investor because you know what value it would bring to you, not only his name. And in conclusion, I'd like to make a little summary. So first of all, understand what type of business are you pursuing and are you building. Understand why your company needs investment. Avoid going to the funds just because it's the norm. Really realize you need the money now, or you can do it on your own, or you just need an expertise. And it's always good to find an expert that would help you, and not always the money here. Have a clear path and a financial model, good financial model that would guide you, and not only just an Excel spreadsheet, but an answer to all your questions, and understand the startup's economic. How much money do you need for now? When to seek new rounds? In terms of time, recognize that fundraising processes take time, and always remember that if you closed in a month the round from an angel, it would require more time if you raise from a fund, for example. Because larger rounds require more time because of due diligence, because of negotiations, and Konstantin will talk to you about that. And understand that who your investor is, what can he bring to the table, and what are your needs. And thinking from that, you would find the perfect investor for you. So this is all. I would be happy to answer to any questions that you have. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, so questions maybe in the end, right? Okay. Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, thank you once again that you made it to this room, found your way here. Yeah, so, yeah, thank you very much for the presentation. I think it was really great, and we would need to basically continue on that. My presentation will be more technical in nature. It will require some focus from your side, but I hope you will find it valuable in the end. So I will tell more about the investment process from the technical perspective, what particular stages are included, how you should navigate this when you are in particular negotiation with a certain fund, how decisions are made by the fund, and what due diligences include, and how investment decisions are made. Regarding myself, I'm happy to be one of the co-founding partners of Zubr Capital back 10 years ago, actually in 2010, 2012. And by the way, I also, together with our managing partner, we led the first initial round of financing for Zubr Capital Fund 1, including attracting EBRD as a cornerstone investor. And actually, while listening to Anna, I also understood that, guys, we do fundraising all the time. If you know how VCs work and private equity works, every 6 or 7 years we go through this fundraising stage. So I will be talking to you not only from a perspective of an investor, but also a company which is doing fundraising itself, right? So that's an experience we also have. I'm a senior investment director at Zubr Capital now, and there are a few areas I specialize, which are B2B SaaS, cloud infrastructure services, data science, and AI applications. Yeah, so regarding the fundraising process, multiple stages we're going to cover. Today, 9 or 10 here, but let's dive deeper into each of them. So it all starts with the fundraising strategy, basically, for you to understand, okay, how I'm going to raise, who am I going to raise from? And first, of course, is defining your target investors. These are investors which can be interested in your business, right? We'll dive deeper into what kind of criteria might work when you filter those investors. Second, of course, perspective of what value add you are looking for. So not who might be interested in you, but what you need for your own business. Then you, of course, need to understand how funds make decisions, right? And who may be your champions within the funds, because the fund is an abstract organization, but there are certain particular individuals there who will promote your deal internally, and you need to identify them beforehand. Then there is this whole type of process, right? There are two major approaches here, which is parallel fundraising and serial fundraising. The key difference, parallel, you do multiple contacts within a very short time frame, like 3 or 4 months. But you're doing hundreds contacts within these 3-4 times. There are 4 or 5 investors which might come to term sheet negotiation stage, and then you close the deal. It requires lots of effort on behalf of the founders, the managers, and it's not suitable for everyone. But finally, you're building a very competitive process, and you can close the deal faster and with a better valuation. But there is more less time consuming, which is serial fundraising, when you do it in consequential way, right? So one after another, you do it it might take longer time period, it might take 9 months or a year, but the founders can still dedicate some time to the business, right? Because it's not so intense when you just have to drop out of all your regular activities for 3-4 months and just do the contacts with the founders. Of course, you need to set a time frame, and I already mentioned it's better, to plan it ahead when your money is going to run out. Usually start 9 to 12 months before you see that the cash flow is going to run out. And of course, a fundraising team within the company, you need, including your founding team. There will be a founder who will be leading this whole process. Some other founders may still be focused on the business. And of course, the whole management team who is going to involve, prepare data, take part in negotiations, so the team should be set up. Regarding the fund strategy, so before you approach anyone, it's very necessary to understand, okay, what's the fund strategy? It includes a few dimensions here. Well, first is the market segment size of investment, and these are verticals in industries, regions, and average check size. And then there is a company stage, of course, you all know pre-seed, seed, A, B, and beta. There is a product itself, and there are companies which are focused on particular like market potential, for instance, global markets, international operations. The companies, all funds are looking for some kind of strong, unique value proposition. They're looking for technological edge, and there are funds which are focused on particular technologies, like, of course, deep tech right now is one of them, maybe blockchain. There are other funds which specialize in particular technologies. You should take this into account. And of course, all funds are looking for business models which are scalable. Again, here the regional focus is important. If you're a local company right now and funds are looking for some scalability, they need some kind of additional traction on the international level as well. Of course, everyone is looking for experienced team and expertise, in particular areas which are complementary to each other. So a founding team which complement both like product and engineering, sales and marketing expertise. And of course, culture values is important for the fund. What is driving the team forward, right? Because especially as you startups, it's always a bumpy road, so you need to have a very strong team and very strong non-monetary motivation. Everyone, of course, is looking for growth potential, and here you need to understand what kind of target return the fund is looking for, what kind of money on money, so-called IRR metrics. I will tell more about that. And exit potential. So of course, every fund which invests, especially at the later stage, maybe not in the earlier, but later stage, for instance, we as private equity fund already consider, okay, what are potential strategic acquirers, what are they buying actually in the market, what kind of business model they're looking for, or IPO potential. We do have experience with an IPO of one of our companies, and we know that at a certain stage we are already looking at targets from the perspective of whether it's IPO ready company or maybe IPO ready in a few years. For instance, just take an example of Zubr Capital. So how is it? Basically, what kind of criteria we set? We invest in B2C and B2B applications. In B2C, we primarily invest in health and well-being, entertainment, being there. We do invest in B2B SaaS, and here multiple verticals. We don't have like any vertical specialization within that. But we do have some verticals like classifieds and marketplaces, e-com, fintech, and edutech, where we basically focus on particular areas. We invest in post-round A, so that's investment round of 5 to 50 million. We do look for very unique and disruptive value proposition. So even if there are successful companies who might be growing like 15-20%, we don't invest if there is no very unique differentiated value prop. We are looking for some technological edge, and we do due diligence. So this technological edge, we're looking for companies who are doing already operations on global markets. And in terms of some financial metrics, we're looking for 5 million plus recurrent revenue, 50% year-over-year growth, and 4 times money on money return over a 4 or 5 year horizon. The fund's organizational structure decision making. That's what I started talking with you, why it's very important basically to have your champion. You see, it's not a decision of one person within the fund, right? The fund operates as a certain organization, though we are very lean firm, for instance, there are 12, 14 people within our firm, but we are not making decisions ourselves anyway. So there is always sort of checks and balances within any fund, any private equity firm or VC firm. It starts all that there is division on the operational team from front to back office. Front office is our partners, investment directors, investment analysts who are actually forming investment teams and doing the deals. And they may be your champions, right? Their whole task is basically to bring the right deal to the table, to risk committee, investment committee for approval. We are helped by our back office, but this is also a second pair of eyes. And this, on the example of Zubr, includes controlling finance department, which is doing risk assessment. We do have a very strong HR practice internally, which oversees practices within our portfolio companies, but also doing so-called HRDD. And we have a very strong legal and compliance teams. We are checking the legal and compliance risks. But then there are two committees which are engaged in reviewing the deals, right? There is risk committee, that's more an internal structure, combined of front and back office colleagues, which are basically trying to analyze the deal from different risk perspectives and bringing these risks, and then asking the investment team to dive deeper into those risks during the diligence stages. And there is this final committee which makes the decision. It's an investment committee. It's actually combined of partners of the firm, but also representatives of our investors, fund investors, and some internal experts whom we think who have very valuable expertise. So this is the process, right? So it starts from front office developing an investment case, agreeing and discussing this case internally first, the risk committee, and then going to investment committee for approval. It's hard to navigate from outside. You don't know how decisions are made. That's why you need a champion within a company who would do this, who would promote the deal internally, but you still should be aware of the process and ask about that, because your task is to help this champion successfully approve the deal at the investment committee. So that's a partner in crime, so-called, right? So who will help you basically navigate within that and make the decision making. Some of you who might be engaged in sales, in enterprise sales, might know this kind of sales methodology. It's called MEDIC. Basically, I think that it's very much applicable to a particular fundraising process, because you are selling here. In a good way, you are selling the idea of investing in your business, and you're doing enterprise sales because these are multi-million investments. And there are a few areas. What's the MEDIC? MEDIC is the way how you qualify the fund, that is your target, and then how you navigate the sales process within this fund. So first you consider metrics, right? Again, I mentioned for you 5 million ARR. We are looking for a certain growth rate, certain lifetime value customer acquisition cost, retention metrics, etc. So first, when you start talking with the fund, you need to understand what kind of metrics they are looking for and whether you fit those metrics. You understand who the buyer is. In this case, who is making the decision. I described to you that it's not one person within funds. These are usually a few people involved. How the process looks like, and we'll dive deeper into that. What are the decision criteria? And the more you get an understanding of how the fund makes the decision from your champion, what's important, then you should prepare the information and focus on that during your speeches, during your talks with the company itself. Identify pain. The main pain for the funds, of course, is finding the good, proper deals. I mean, it's not the situation that only you are looking for investments. We are looking for very great companies. So we are both here have interests to find each other. And at the same time, it's very important that you also take a look at your competitors within funds area of activity. For instance, if there is a local fund focused on particular geography, you should very well be aware of who your competitors are. So how to position yourself ahead of any other startups who are basically pitching to the same fund. So it's good to understand that as well. And of course, you need a champion, a person who would, with very good intention, understanding that there is also checks and balances system, but the person who would promote your deal within the fund. Then, of course, the preparation of the information, which is pitch deck, data room. You probably know very much about that. In pitch deck, you want to tell what kind of story you're selling, what data helps you to basically present the story. In the data room, I will dive deeper into what kind of areas should be covered. We suggest preparing the data room in advance. It will save you a few weeks of your time during the investment process. And as Anna already mentioned, it's always about not only the data, the pitch deck data room, but how you deliver this data to the funds manager, right? It should be done, of course, in person, because slides will never depict your vision, how you see as a founder the story, how you see the growth, how you see potential. That's why it's only you, via personal face-to-face contact, may deliver that. And of course, references. I will tell a few words about that, why references are important. Pitch deck. There is an interesting statistic provided by DocSend. You know, right now, mostly of you send your pitches via this link via DocSend, right? So DocSend does kind of monitoring. Okay, what happens with those links after you send them, right? And what happens is that average time when a fund manager looks at your deck, it's 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and That's why I'm saying that it's not possible, basically, even if you put lots of months of work into your pitch deck, 2 minutes will never sell. I mean, it should be something very extraordinary which will resonate with the person, but usually it happens during personal contact. But anyway, of course, pitch deck is very important. There are a few areas which are covered here. And the most important, the most looked at slides, which take most of time of these viewers, this is business model. So what you are selling, whom you are selling, and how you monetize that. Your traction is very important right now, especially when investors are very much concerned about like the financial viability of the business. And of course, financial stability, what cash runway you have, how financially stable you are, what kind of financial metrics you've already achieved. And mistakes in pitch decks, which we think are critical. Unique value proposition not clearly stated. So basically you say, I'm doing this or that, but how I'm differentiated very strongly, like Google says, 10 times difference from my competitor. That's usually missing. But sometimes what companies are seeing, they're showing this at one time lack of differentiation, but at the same time unrealistic competitor analysis. So we see all those marks that we are better than competitors, and it looks unrealistic to us. Complex slides, of course, if you have 10 minutes to view the pitch deck, overlay complex slides will just very much distract the person, and he might not even read to the end. Unrealistic financial projections. So if you see the company in 2 years will make 100 million revenue, we basically close the deck and never return to a person, because we should be reasonable about how we forecast our business, and it should be achievable and feasible. Team capabilities, again, we have seen many pictures of the founders, but it's better to dive deeper into what's the particular track record of a person is, and how this composition of the management team is complementary to each other and bring the success. Regarding data amount, a few points, which we usually ask the companies to provide. So usually, by the way, we see that the companies don't have data room prepared. We think it's bad because basically it takes 2 or 3 weeks for us to interact on preparing the data. That's why we suggest it be ready, and it includes we'll share you with the presentation. We'll dive deeper into every of those points, but there is general company information starting from the cap table, fundraising history, composition of the board, so corporate governance, how it's done, key team members, organizational structure, legal structure. There is, of course, overview of the market, your view of the market analysis, industry research, competitor analysis, description of the product, both current status, but most important also product roadmap. So what you plan to achieve with the product coming to 1 or 2 years. And usage metrics on the product, very much important, especially when the financial metrics are not yet, or they're not so so great for now. The go-to-market strategy, including the pricing model, go-to-market strategy itself, how you segment the customers, what are your focused customer segments, any customer reviews, satisfaction surveys, etc., and sales and marketing organizational structure, so how it looks for now. Of course, the financial aspects, starting from management reporting, classic P&L, balance sheet, and cash flow, breakdown of revenue, but more important, financial model, financial forecast, with a very much detail, breaking down by number of clients you plan to achieve, average contract value, retention of those clients, upsell on those clients, etc., etc. So, the more detailed financial forecast, showing us what are the growth drivers, how feasible to achieve them, that's better. And particularly, we took a look for SaaS metrics, just as an example. We do have specific metrics for B2C, B2B applications, depending on the industry, of course. We do have asked for a separate set of KPIs. In SaaS, we are looking for, of course, client dynamics, including number of newly acquired clients, retention of clients, churn clients, ARR dynamics, including here as well, breaking down by newly acquired ARR, net ARR growth, upsell, and lost ARR. Of course, cohort analysis show retention by client and ARR. And key metrics for us, of course, are unit economic metrics, which are lifetime value to customer acquisition cost, of course. And so let's imagine you have everything ready, basically. You define who your target funds are, pitch deck is ready, and data room is ready. Then, of course, you build up those long list of investors. You filter investors based on their fund strategy, mixing global, regional funds. We think it's very important here because it's always better to check whether your particular project might be ready for a global name. It's good to do this anyway. not to lose anyone. But regional funds, of course, are first choice, especially on the earlier stages like seed and round A. Less competition, and that's why higher chances for you to win the attention of regional funds. Don't waste your time on reaching out to investors that are not a fit for you. Yes, we do have experiences when at the earlier stages we've been contacted by companies. We have like lots of incoming applications, but while it's good when you have like 24 months to fundraise, it's good that you contact early. It's just part of your work. Like regular founders work, you're always raising. But when you have like a certain target, 3 or 4 months, to close a round, parallel round of financing, so a very intense short time frame, we think that you don't waste time on those who are not a good fit for you from the point of view of like metrics which are required. Warm interests, of course, are much better than cold emails. I'll tell a few words about that a little bit later. And of course, building relationships, as Anna said, is very important. Regarding this investor engagement, what I would personally recommend, first, you need to build trust. Trust is the key. And without trust, nobody will give you the money. And trust can be received in few words. Well, when you, like, for instance, how you become trust in a person, like in real life. You, first of all, someone recommends this person to you, references, right? And references very valuable to us. There are two types of references. First, other VC funds, so private equity firms, fund managers whom we know for their track record and whom we trust. And that's our first network, which we are building ourselves. The second are founders of our portfolio companies. So companies we invested in and founders who are running those portfolio companies who are also successful, whom we trust. That's a big another way how you basically can build trust via these two sources of references. Then, of course, personal context. So the more you see a person, interact with him or her during any events and tell about yourself, about your vision for the business, the better. And regular investor updates. That's very important. I think that it always says that you need to send those investor updates, right, regularly. Sometimes people don't really understand what it's about. It's actually about building trust, because I see those updates, like myself receiving those updates, I have to open them, just because I think it's just part of my work. But if I see a constant progress, transparency on behalf of the founder, comments about what's going on with the business, that's really basically builds the trust to this particular person or organization. And there is this PAPA framework. We're talking about sales framework, very like funny name for PAPA framework, but what it's actually about is you have a pitch and you promise something, right? That's what first thing you do, right? Then you amplify, you describe in more detail what this promise is about. Then you prove with your track record how you already going onto this promise and how you may deliver in the future and actions. So you always follow up with the investor, right? So you suggest the next step. Because investors, they're always very busy, lots of things going on there, but you follow up and you be persistent and in your context. And especially, I personally like this parallel process. So very condensed, 3-4 months, multiple contexts, like up to 100 contexts, and shortlisting 4 or 5 to a term sheet. That's very great, because you're building competitive process and building this formal view of personality, because as soon as you have competition on behalf of investors, of course, as soon as we feel competition for particular deal, we are ready to close it as soon as possible. So that's why I think that if you build this kind of competition, that would be a very, very good step. Investment committee. So let's imagine that you found those who are basically who love your idea. You found a champion, and the idea is then for this champion to prepare an investment case for investment committee. There will be a few more requests in addition to the data room. Your task is basically to provide all required information for this investment case to be prepared, right? And the first time this investment case is brought to investment committee, there are a few areas which we are focusing on, which is market overview, product overview, unique selling propositions, very important for us, the composition again of the team, high-level financials, and potential investor return, money, right? So these are high metrics, and that's the first like helicopter view mostly. But then, of course, we need during due diligence dive deeper into that, understand that there is like true story there. And source of information, of course, the information you shared. At that time, you of course have multiple calls with the fund managers on the founding team, investment team as well. And so the idea is basically here to be as responsive as possible and help your champion become successful with bringing this case to investment committee. Okay, so investment committee approves. Yeah, it's a big first step basically, and maybe this first investment committee approval is like 70% of the deal done, but there is 30% still left. Well, first is the term sheet, right? So you need to agree on the terms. You do bring to investment committee high-level key terms, high-level like first of all valuation, the share, maybe some liquidity preferences, downside protection, but you need to, in term sheet is a little more than you just bring to the first investment committee. You need to agree on those terms. We think that perfect is the enemy of good. So if there are terms missing, you can agree on that later on. We think it's absolutely fine. If you see that some points you cannot easily negotiate, some additional negotiations required, also postpone, just sign the document. It's very important for investment funds. It's a kind of commitment. Basically, if investment fund signs a term sheet and does not find red flags during the deal, it's a good practice that we sign the deal afterwards. Usually we ourselves advise the company to find a legal advisor because, again, sometimes it's very hard to explain the legal terms, what the standards in the market are, so look for a legal advisor. They're ready to provide like a very low-cost consulting for that, and try to help them understand the legal terms, right? And whether it's the standards in the market or not. If these are standards, absolutely fine. Also here, take a look at the templates available by Y Combinator, NVCA, and some other terms which are standard in the market. There's also information available online. If these are standard, just accept and go on. And from the investor perspective, what we are looking for in the term sheet, sometimes, of course, the price is important, but it's not the only thing, right? Sometimes we call it the structure of the deal. So these are the other terms which help us achieve our own target return, which may be liquidation preference, of course, simple or just simply pref just provides us with downside protection, but participating pref in certain deals which are valued high, they help us achieve the target return faster, and they may actually a little bit soften the high valuation of the company. So it's about not only the price, but other conditions of the deal. What is important, of course, during the term sheet, the investor wants to have this no-shop clause. It's absolutely okay to provide some exclusivity for a certain period, like 1 or 2 months, because again, this is a competitive process. You build it yourself. You want to somehow reward that investor who is ready to sign a term sheet, right? The reward for this investor is no-shop exclusivity for 2 months to conduct due diligence and close the deal. And of course, investor is looking for some preliminary protection of their rights, preliminary agreement on the board seats, reserve matters, so of course it's all standard and understandable. There is some more detail on what's included in the term sheet. Maybe it's just high level, again, it's the amount of investments, pre-money valuation, downside protections, liquidation preference primarily, the corporate governance, meaning the board of directors and of course large investors want to have, co-investors, minor, might just want an observer, board rights, reserve matters, and of course some standards under dilution provisions, right, for software rectangular rights, confidentiality clause, no-shop clause, and governing law jurisdictions. But again, it's a non-binding document, except for a few small clauses like confidentiality, no-shop, and governing law. But you all understand that for us it's basically a kind of preliminary commitment. Very rarely, if nothing is found during the deal, we will actually not complete the deal on these terms. The due diligence, right? So the hardest part probably, but after you, of course, convinced investor that it's a good idea, but demanded in terms of lots of engagement on behalf of the not only founding team, but the management. And here we suggest that you discuss with an investor beforehand, what kind of DD process, how it will look like, and start preparing the data room for DD, which is much more broader data room, but also different kind of process. For instance, investors want to talk to clients during DD, right? You need to start engaging with those clients who can be interviewed by your investors. Sometimes it takes quite a while. And DDs are different depending on the stage. I'll tell a few words about that. From investor perspective, you should understand that investors, what they need during DD, they need to check the data you provide, right? Because the first data you provided, they're not sure it's true, right? So they need to basically double check that it's correct data. Of course, we are working with industry experts, so in the first stage we relied on internal research. In the DD, we dive deeper and we attract industry experts who can actually assess your business model and do competitive analysis and help us understand the risk, specific risk like legal and compliance risk, etc. And our idea for investors is not to, at this time, find some potential discounts and renegotiate the price or the terms. Our idea is just to identify new risks and understand whether these risks are manageable. And the idea of the founders team and the team do not hide any risks, because they will anyway be known. And this whole process is very well thorough. Bring those risks, let's discuss them in an open talk, and whether there's a mitigation for this risk. If you can propose mitigations yourself, it's absolutely fine. So it again builds the trust and makes due diligence much faster. And of course, DD will be different. Pre-seed seed is just about an idea for extraction. So it's 2-4 weeks times for DD, very low coverage of the data. We invest in Series A later, and having a private equity fund with more concentrated portfolio, so just 10 to 15 investments, we of course dive deeper. We dive deeper and require certain time. Usually it takes 4 or 8 weeks, but right now, yeah, 4 or 6 weeks probably is a good time for us. If you're not right, let's cover.
Too much.
Huh?
It's too much.
Too much. Yeah.
This is why I make photo.
Yes, look, guys, the talk is technical, right? That's what I'm saying. But yeah, like again, we're in startup school, so a little bit learning. Of course, I will share with you all this information. You may actually follow up with me. So there is certain scope of due diligence which we are checking. So you will dive deep into that, and probably that was mentioned by Anna already. We are doing the HRDD. It's very important for us. Why it's important at this particular stage more than probably at the stage earlier. At the earlier stage, you have a founding team and are basically driving the whole business. And when we invest larger check size, around it later, we need to check the scalability of the business. We need to see that the team is ready to scale. So that's why it's important for us. The results of this HRDD are usually kind of, flagged in terms of what areas of competencies or functional areas are really good, very well covered, and what areas need to be improved. And again, it does not make that if, for instance, marketing here is highlighted red, that will be a deal breaker. That just means that we, together with UC, develop a roadmap how we should develop this functional area. Financial DD is just checking the financial data, unit economics, liquidity of the business. And legal and tax DD, multiple areas which are covered there, and we won't dive deeper into that. But of course, like tax liabilities in certain technology companies which are dealing with personal data, there's some regulatory compliance, how you deal with this personal data, whether it's really protected, and there are like compliance risks there, we dive deeper into that. And of course, IP rights for technology businesses are important. And final investment committee basically passed all the DDs, and we bring this deal to final investment committee, we show the results of DDs, and if no red flags, DD is approved at the point of the preliminary review. What happens after the deal? And that's the last slide. It's a 100-day plan. 100-day plan mostly it's an instrument used by private equity funds in the US. It started from there, and US private equity funds are M&A funds, so they are doing buyouts, and that's where they were heavily engaged in some restructuring of the business after the deal. But we think that it's a good practice for VC type as well. Of course, we are not so heavily engaged in doing restructuring ourselves, but we sit with the founders and discuss what areas demand attention in the upcoming 3 or 4 months, like the most urgent areas. In some companies, strategy revision, fine-tuning. In some companies, setting up finance function, accounting, cash flow management, reporting, etc., certain financial risks. In some functions, in some companies, for instance, we saw this marketing red flag, key team members should be hired, and that should be a key priority. We help recruit those people. We do have a network of recruiting agencies whom we work with globally. So a certain HR process which needed to be urgently set up. Branding is part of the practices we bring sometimes, but maybe it's a more like a long-term path. Corporate governance, that of course demands first immediate attention to set up a board structure, including independent board members and advisors, and all the process of the board. And legal and tax risks which were identified, which require immediate attention. So we follow up the deal with these particular activities for 3-4 months. So basically that's it. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope I didn't overload you guys. Okay, maybe we'll start with the questions, yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, sure. I think that we need to take a microphone probably. Or
I think, it's up to you.
okay, yeah, I hear you well,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Actually, I have two questions. Mainly, the first one is what are the main reasons that the investors might need a seat board in the board of directors, mainly for the company?
Why we need a seat board, right?
Yeah, board seat.
Yeah, board seat. Yeah. Well, actually, we are the guardians of the money we receive from our LPs, and we are responsible. We have fiduciary duties to manage these monies properly, and that's why we need a board member seat. More than that, to be first of all aware of the company, what's going on inside, and then to, of course, be part of decision-making body. And of course, we do require not only the board seat, maybe just 1 out of 5 people, but we require reserved matters. That means that these decisions cannot be taken without the vote of the fund manager. So basically, we can block so-called negative control, right? We can block certain decisions. This usually relates to strategy, business model, relates to financial budget, maybe key hires, not in all companies, but like CEO -1 level, compensation for executive team, including option schemes, that's also included there, and a few other questions, but these are primary areas which are covered.
I'm asking because lately what's happening with ChatGPT, you know, that the
Yeah.
directors, mainly they fire, you know, the CEO who was the main founder, the visionary of the ChatGPT, and what's happened also with Steve.
They fired him, yeah.
Yeah,
They fired
I
him.
mean, sometimes I believe that the board of directors, you know, it's just a discussion because I was trying to figure out regarding that. Because if it's more mainly for observation rate, you know, it's gonna be really good to be in a board of advisors, right? Is it mean?
Yeah. Look, it depends on the investor. If investor wants some kind of strong power there on the board, I would abstain from this investor. I mean, we are not asking for power to dismiss a CEO. Right, we never do that, right? So but we carefully choose those founders, CEOs whom we work with, right? In the first place, and we trust them. We basically provide them our money. Yeah, but again, founders can protect their rights on the board level as well. First of all, there are sometimes different class of shares, voting, non-voting. Again, decision on dismissal of CEO might require like unanimous vote, for instance, right? So that you, being as a founder, should agree to that yourself. So basically, it's your personal resignation, right? You can discuss this. It's not a standard requirement, but there are companies when founders, diluted multiple rounds of financing. The founders are holding 10-15%, and there are like 10 funds there, right? Of course, they would control the board. But again, there are cases like Mark Zuckerberg with Facebook. You never had a voting control there. He called the voting control, and you could never dismiss this person, right? So it's about structuring the deal, and it's not standard to require such kind of rights.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please.
Thank you for your talk. So let's imagine a deep tech startup who is open sourcing its technology, so basically giving away all its intellectual property. Is that investable in your view?
Excuse me, could you please repeat it once again? What kind of startup?
So let's imagine a deep tech startup
Deep tech, yeah.
which open sources its technology,
Okay,
so
yeah.
essentially gives away all of its intellectual property. Is that an investable startup in your view?
We do have such type of company. It's not deep tech, but it's an open source e-com platform. You see, we need some traction. We need to see how you monetize this open source solution. Maybe it's not possible to do this at the earlier stage, but at the later stage, you do still have like kind of commercial, paid version of this open source solution, and we need to see this traction. Open source mostly about building the community, making product available for broad audience and promoting in this regard, but then we need to find a way how to monetize that. And we need to see this monetization happening already. So and probably that's why my answer would be for our fund, which is investing later on. We need to see financial metrics, how we monetize commercial paid versions of those open source solutions.
Okay, so the investment process makes up of quite a few stages.
Yes.
My question is this, in your experience, At what stage do you see most deals falling through, and why?
Falling through, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not happening. You get stuck at that stage, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, of course, like conversion from first initial contact to basically the time when you start preparing the investment case, that's the lowest conversion, right? So basically from our fund, we probably review more than 100 deals per year. I would not be afraid to tell this. And we are doing 2-3 deals. And most of the deals fell out at just the time of like my, as an investment director, personal contact with the founder, and just understanding whether there is business there in terms of unique value proposition, traction, and strategy we require, etc. And then, maybe out of those deals which I bring to risk committee, internal discussions, maybe I bring in 10 deals per year, and the 2 deals are realized. So around 8 out of 10 deals, internal discussions and understanding the risks, because my colleagues bring in their own expertise on different areas. Assessment of those risks means that 8 out of 10 fell out after risk committee discussion. So first initial filter, of course, is the concrete person, concrete director. And that's why it's important that you find that director, that partner, who might be able to understand your view, your vision. Because sometimes it's about how good he or she understands your vision and can translate it to a particular investment opportunity, right? So, and that's why very important, basically, when you're doing this cold outreach, checking LinkedIn profile, take a look at the company the guy invested in and sits at the board. If he sits on the board of the companies in a similar domain, maybe not competing with you, of course, but you see that this person can understand what my vision is, right?
Okay, thanks. Last question, just a very quick one.
Yeah.
Do you guys invest in healthcare solutions?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
I'll get it to
Next one.
You only said that you invest in companies that they already have a traction in the market,
Yes, yeah.
with recurring revenues of 5 million plus,
Yes.
and growth 50% plus year on year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have any plans for early stages?
Early
Because there's
stages.
a ton of companies that are in the seed process. To move to the next.
Yeah, it's a hard question. We actually discussed a few times the early stage fund, but it's a different type of business, basically different type of investment strategy. A separate team should be doing that. We know that, of course, many funds like Anderson Horowitz, Sequoia do have divisions which are basically starting from early stage, but not many of them starting even from 1 to million, mostly around A and later. So we are considering moving up a level, more around B, and raising around larger funds. That's our strategy, not maybe in the early stages.
You said that we're looking for a partnership relationship, like with a spouse. How much we as a startup should be considerate of the fund as far as where their money are coming from, which countries, which niches, which businesses. Maybe it depends on our stage of development as a startup, or is there something you would recommend we consider into the funds, fiber, nature, or anything like this?
So you mean how for you to decide whether it's a good fit, whether it's a fund?
Yes, should we be careful, for example, if the money are from toxic country or from toxic niche? As a startup, would that prohibit us in the future have other investors who don't want to co-invest?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I think you should take this into account for sure. I mean, because it's kind of a red flag for future investors is they see some types of investors in your cap table. So not money at all cost, right? Because it might hurt you later on. But I think that there is lots of money which is not toxic and not from those regions. Actually, most of the money are the money from developed markets, right? And from well-run funds, institutional funds. So I think that was quite interesting.
Is there any type of principles that we should consider into at which stage, maybe at early stage we can take money from this country, but at later stage we can't?
No, I don't think it depends on the stage, truly. Yeah, because I mean, as soon as this person, even if it's an angel, right, is in your cap table, well, first of all, I mean, it's going to be a red flag anyway, because we are looking at fundraising story, and yeah, we're looking for those people who should be absent, or funds should be absent. So I would not go for it from zero, from point zero.
If you don't mind sharing, how successful is this investment process in terms of, so you say you invest on average 2 companies per year?
3, yeah.
3, yeah. Like, have you had many who failed or like turned out bad, or do they meet your expectations?
It's a good question. Yeah. Yes, we have like over 20 companies on our portfolio. We don't have failures for now. Yeah. Before that, when we were investing more like as a corporate arm, we did have like a few companies which did not return the investments. In our current fund, there are no such companies. So yeah, we do have companies which provide like moderate return, 2 times money on money. We already think that's a kind of deal which was not successful for us. Although you know that the average statistics for VC funds, private equity firms, 12-14% ARR. So it's x2 times over 4 or 5 year horizon is a very good return. But for us, x2 money and money, it's a lower return. We're looking for 3 and 4, this range. But of course, many of our income is still on paper. We've exited via a few businesses, but of course, many of the exits still needs to be done from our current fund, coming 1 or 2 years. So we will know the results when is actual money coming in. Yeah.
May I ask you something also? Do you consider ICO as a good opportunity for exit instead of IPO? Because what's happened lately with GameStop, I mean, in order to protect the company from such aggressive short selling and etc., because lately it's happening a lot. I don't know if you consider ICO as a good opportunity.
Yeah, we don't have experience with cryptocurrency investing in general. ICO also, yeah, we didn't practice kind of financing. We didn't like classic IPO in London Stock Exchange, but no ICO. I think it's not suitable for everyone, but there are businesses, of course, which are very well fit for this particular strategy. Of course, the current currency market, cryptocurrency market is maybe recovering, but not doing great right now with all those scandals and frauds, etc. So there's
European bank actually gonna issue their own crypto coin.
Yeah.
Meaning that that's why I'm connecting, ICO with in the future, not lately now.
Yeah, but it's a good idea, I think, to consider that maybe in the future, because the market becoming more and more regulated and transparent in this regard. So there is an opportunity to do this in a correct way, right? Because before that it was just wild west, right? In terms of ICO.
Any other questions?
It looks like Friday night. Everyone's tired, yeah.
Time for drinks?
Yes. Anyway, we'll follow up with the presentations. Our contact details are done out there, so please feel free to follow up. We'll be happy to engage with you and provide any additional info. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Tanya?